The writers and intellectuals, some of the leading international thinkers of the era, were so appalled by the Biafran tragedy that they took it upon themselves to pay the breakaway republic a visit and get a first-hand look at the suffering, the destitution, and the starvation. Auberon Waugh came, and afterward wrote a devastating book on Harold Wilson's devastation policy. He also named his newborn child Biafran War. There was a small group of American writers, Kurt Vonnegut, Herbert Gold, and Harvey Swadders, who came to show solidarity with me and other beleaguered Biafran writers. Vonnegut was so devastated following his trip that he cried for weeks. Todd Davis reports that Vonnegut's response to his trip to Biafra was not suicide, but tears. He recounts his return to Manhattan, where he checked into the Royalton Hotel. His family was skiing in Vermont. I found myself crying so hard, I was barking like a dog. I didn't come close to doing that after World War II. His experience in Biafra and Mozambique quite obviously play a part in the author's consistent plea that we respect one another, an action that must involve our participation in meeting the needs of the global community. Kurt left in the seminal essay Biafra, A People Betrayed, a glowing testament to his observations. Geoffrey Hill, the British poet, Douglas Killam, the Canadian literary critic and scholar, Stanley Diamond, and the amiable Conor Cruise O'Brien all visited Biafra. Diamond brought something additional, a long-standing scholarly interest and expertise in the territory. This world-renowned anthropologist became an intellectual Biafran warrior, galvanizing a formidable American and Canadian intellectual response to the tragedy. Diamond's knowledge of Nigeria came from having done extensive field work in parts of the country right from the last days of the British Raj, and he followed its affairs closely through independence and after. He understood the ideological dimension of the Nigerian Biafran conflict. He was not fooled by the strenuous efforts of Britain to pass off her former colony as a success story of African independence, when in fact it had only passed with Britain's active collaboration from colonial to neo-colonial status. He saw the bloody civil war not as Harold Wilson and other apologists for Nigeria presented it, that is, as progressive nationalism fighting primitive tribalism, but as the reigning of a rare and genuine national culture at the moment of its birth. It was advantageous to the federal Nigerian case to stigmatize Biafra for its alleged link with South Africa and Portugal. Diamond pointed out that it was the Czechoslovakians and the Chinese, not South Africans or Portuguese, who supplied the bulk of Biafra's arms in the first year of the war, and that the Czech source dried up after the Prague Spring reform movement was crushed by Soviet tanks and the fall of Alexander Dubček in 1968. The moment has come for Nigerians and the world to ask the proper questions and draw the right inferences about what happened in those terrible years. Stanley Diamond's perception will, no doubt, be a great help to us. They are rooted in prodigious learning and a profoundly humane sensibility. I am happy that this remarkable man who has searched for, who has found and reclaimed the unclouded vision of the primitive at the crossroads of science and song, has bestowed on my country the benefits of his deep scholarly, humanistic, and spiritual meditation. The New York Review of Books of May 22, 1969 carried a long article, Biafra Revisited, by Conor Cruise O'Brien on the second visit he made with Diamond to the secessionist enclave. It was accompanied by a poem I had just written in memory of Christopher Okibo, Africa's greatest modern poet, who had recently died on the Biafran battlefield. It also carried a profoundly moving poem, Sunday in Biafra, by Stanley Diamond, that, like all his poetry, combines startling substantiality with haunting ease and inevitability, and it stands on the mind like an icon of Africa's tragedy, an image and logic that nothing will remove. Nigerian author Ezenwa Oheke later wrote, Auberon was convinced that the survival of Biafra would be a victory for African courage, endurance, and skill, and an opportunity for the further development of African creativity. In his report on that visit in the New York Review of Books, he points out that of the two best-known writers, Achebe is a convinced Biafran patriot, and the other, the playwright Wole Soyinka, a Yoruba, is a prisoner in northern Nigeria. Of critical importance to the entire debate around the Biafran affair was Auberon's conclusion. No one seriously interested in African literature in its relation to African social and political life can have failed to ponder the meaning of the choices and fates of these two men.